Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With episode 790 of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and it is Thursday, so you know exactly what that means. We are here to break down everything that happened over the last week across NXT and AEW. And for the first time in a few weeks, we don't have some big WWE item kicking off the show. We theoretically could do that, but nothing is official just yet. So we're going to go ahead and save that so that we can spend more time on it, perhaps this coming Tuesday on our WWE episode, which I should also mention will be the WWE WrestlePalooza Ultimate Preview. And since I'm talking about Ultimate Previews, next week in this exact same spot, same bat time, same bat channel on Thursday, we will have your AEW All Out Ultimate Preview. So a big week of shows coming next week here at Getting Over before the Silver King goes on a bit of vacation. But don't you worry, we will find a way to deliver performance-enhancing audio to your ear holes from the Big Apple. And on that note, since Silver King is going to be in New York for pretty much 2 weeks, if any listeners out there have interest in possibly getting together, getting a cold one, whether in Brooklyn, whether in the city itself, hit me up, let me know. You have my socials, and we can try to make such a connect. But it's going to be a busy week. I'm covering the Ryder Cup. I'm going to go into some offices and really just go around New York for the first time in 6 years. I haven't been there since before the pandemic in 2019 for WrestleMania 35. That's actually literally the last time I was in New York. It's my favorite city in the world, and I just cannot wait to go back. So I'm excited to be going. Like I said, in terms of the podcast, the schedule is probably going to be different. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't want to hugely speculate, but it might be a situation where like the WWE show comes out on a Wednesday morning or something, or the NXT and AEW show comes out on a Friday. I don't know, but we're going to do the best job that we can because Getting Over takes no days off. I don't think we've ever missed a show since the start of this podcast, and Silver King going to New York for a couple of weeks is not going to change that. All that said, let's get into today's show, and the way we do that, as always, is with a reminder that the Getting Over Wrestling podcast
is all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us everywhere on social media at Getting Overcast. On Twitter and Blue Sky, you get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. And on YouTube, you can subscribe and listen to full-length audio episodes, watch full-length video interviews. Again, all of it across the board at Getting Overcast. Now, we have a ton to get to, as we always do, across WWE's NXT and AEW.
But I'm afraid I've got some news.
And, you know, I really don't want to make it a habit here on Getting Over of, like, responding to comments made by wrestlers on other shows or in interviews, because the way content is created these days, everyone has an opinion about something or another, and everyone has an outlet in which it can be shared to a pretty wide audience. But I did see significant conversation around some comments that Bryan Danielson made that I found immensely interesting, given WWE fans and AEW fans reacted to his statements in varied manners. The two comments he made that stood out were, one, Cody Rhodes would not be a megastar in WWE right now if AEW never existed. And then two, CM Punk would probably not have returned to WWE without AEW. Now, to be clear, Bryan knows these guys. I do not. So perhaps he has intimate knowledge where he's speaking to that end. And I also want to clarify, he wasn't really denigrating them, nor was he talking shit about WWE. But he was saying this in the midst of an answer about why AEW is so great because it gives opportunities and salaries and all this stuff. And that could lead me down another path here where I share how odd it is that AEW wrestlers almost beg people to believe the company is a babyface, does nothing wrong ever, etc. That's another conversation for another day. Regarding what Bryan said specifically, he has a point when it comes to Cody. Now look, Rhodes was becoming popular on the independents and Ring of Honor and with New Japan after joining Bullet Club. And I do believe, I doubt Brian would disagree, that Cody would have returned to WWE eventually one way or another. But if AEW never existed and Cody had just returned while bringing like Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks with him, because that's what would have happened. If AEW never existed, the Bullet Club would have basically joined WWE. I can't say for sure about Hangman Page. He probably would have as well, but the rest definitely would have joined WWE. Would Cody have received the booking upon coming back that he got at WrestleMania 38 years earlier? Is that due to AEW? I'd say it's due to Cody having worked on a national stage in the United States, and that stage would not have existed for him without AEW. Could he have still been a megastar? Maybe eventually, but he definitely got juice for that. And if Cody had come over to WWE alongside Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, it would have been Omega who got thrust to the forefront first. And Cody probably would have been catching up. In 2025, could he be in the same spot? Maybe. But there's no question that his profile got raised substantially because of AEW, and he was able to return the way he did at WrestleMania 38 because of that. And that kicked off everything we've seen with the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes whole deal in WWE. As far as the Punk comment goes,
This right here is bullshit.
You got to remember, Punk had spoken with WWE about returning multiple times before he ultimately signed with AEW. He'd already dipped his toe back into the company by appearing on that FS1 show. Do I believe it's unlikely he would have come back until Vince McMahon departed? Yeah, I think that's plausible. It seems like this was a Nick Khan and Paul Levesque move all the way. But to state he neither would have returned to wrestling nor WWE if AEW didn't exist, I don't buy that for a single solitary second. There's one other news item to mention at the top of the show. That's something that actually broke just as we were sitting down to tape this episode. Paramount is apparently preparing an all-cash bid for the entirety of Warner Brothers Discovery. Due to my full-time job, this is not something I can discuss or should discuss at length, and I'm certainly not going to dig deep into it here and now. I do need to be careful when it comes to my employment. I won't let it affect my honest opinions, of course, but when it comes to business matters, that's sensitive stuff. There are facts to consider, which anyone with even the most elementary knowledge of media could easily look up. UFC just entered a massive deal with Paramount and CBS Sports. UFC is owned by TKO, which owns WWE, which competes with AEW. If Warner Brothers Discovery is acquired and it's run as, let's say, a separate entity, which would make a lot of sense, it may not matter at all. But there are things to consider about what this might mean if they're not, or at the time AEW comes up for renewal in a couple of years. So it's worth kind of keeping all of that in mind as this transpires. And at some point, if the deal goes through and whatever is made public, then we will discuss it. But you have to understand the Silver King is in a unique position here. And I feel like I gave you a decent enough overview of the situation right now, but there are tons of trade publications that have written about this on Thursday. So feel free to Google, Paramount, Warner Brothers, and you'll be able to read up on it yourself. So that wraps up the news portion of today's show, which allows the Silver King to remind you that here at Getting Over,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Over head. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover, sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. This is a free show. It's an ad-free show. This is the only way that Vintage and I can make any coin to pay for our craft beers and other fun entanglements that we get involved in. So please consider supporting us, buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Now we have a lot to discuss still, talking NXT and AEW. There are timestamps in the episode description as always, so you can jump around if you really want. As always, though, I hope you listen to the entire show. Let's kick it off with NXT. Javon Evans fought Josh Briggs. Evans interrupted the opening of NXT, immediately calling out Briggs before hitting a tope splash and a springboard moonsault ringside just seconds into the show. Ava was somehow ringside as the referee ran out, which was odd. Evans quickly followed with a red dot and frog splash for a false finish, with Briggs still wearing his entrance gear even 7 minutes into the match. And this is after Javon tope suicided him over the announce table. Eventually, the vest came off. Evans kept the pressure on with a bevy of moves, only to get his head taken off with a lariat before responding with red dot and another flip over coast to coast, which is a move I just want him to stop doing because he just doesn't land it. He gets there, like he flips himself and gets all the way to the other corner, but he doesn't land it. Like he hits the guy in the leg or sometimes the chest. The whole point of coast to coast is to go to the upper body. And I'm talking about like breast area on up. And he's just not nailing it despite it being really impressive athletically. It's all flash. A full impact coast to coast would be much more impressive from him. Briggs brought a steel chair into the ring, which Javon super kicked out of his hands. But as the referee removed it, Briggs caught him flying with an anti-air knockout punch, chain wrapped around his fist for the win. Vic Joseph did a great job not calling this live and waiting until the replay to see the chain and be offended by it. This should effectively make Briggs the number one contender and give Evans more time to work lower in the card before he rallies back, becomes a number one contender again, challenges Obafemi. High-octane match in which Javon was, again, super impressive. He does need to focus a little bit more on in-ring storytelling, like in his match with Oba, and less on just stringing bouncy moves together one after another, which is what it felt like this match was. 3.75 stars, B+ for this match. Femi and Ricky Saints argued backstage over their match falling apart last week. Ava told them they can be part of the Grayson Waller effect next week at Homecoming so they can air their grievances. Trick Williams then came in confirming that Ava approved something, dissing Saints for not being champion and telling Femi they were not done with one another. DIY were then in the ring celebrating their 10-year anniversary as a team, saying they were NXT for life. Trick gave DIY props for getting over him last week, but said they're jealous that his NXT is better than their NXT. Enter Carmelo Hayes, making his return to a massive pop. After staring down DIY, he got in Trick's face, saying Williams is talking a lot of shit, but DIY built the house, and Hayes was responsible for the renovations. Fans chanted, "You're a squatter," at Trick, which was great. As Mello put himself with the OGs, Trick apologized for talking trash about him, but said he'll go wherever he wants, whenever he wants. This as DIY kept trying to wedge drive between them. So the heels turned it, talking about DIY's own issues, so Johnny Gargano stopped that talk by making the challenge. This absolutely should have been sharper and stronger from all four guys. Like the execution of the promos and the storytelling could have been better, but I absolutely loved how Trick and Mello didn't make amends with like a finger snap just because it would have been convenient for one match. Williams was just contrite enough for Hayes to say, okay, I'll work with you as a one-off, but they are not friends and did not come together as a duo by any means. Mello very much went to NXT to tell him, you may be better than you were, but you're still my little bro. That's hugely positive from a creative standpoint because it allows them to actually reunite in a meaningful way at a later date, hopefully on the main roster. So this was not the best segment, but it was a successful one. And it's actually kind of funny as an aside that Mello, whether it's main roster or NXT, dude just cannot find a tag team partner that he actually likes. Blake Monroe got a new bathtub vignette with an evil twist, bathed in red lights with ruined makeup and wilted roses. Blake said Jordan Grace made a big mistake because she ruined everything, her plans to be a starlet and champagne-soaked Cinderella especially. The truth, Monroe said, is that she was cruel, merciless, and she'll still be a star, even when she bleeds. She is not meant to be separated from hell. Blake said that she did not get humbled or broken, but awakened. Now she's hungry to prove that she can make even the devil blush. This was so confusing to me because I could have sworn Mariah May was completely ruined by WWE. She would never have an edge to her character again, and it was just a total failure. To quote Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. Monroe has been slowly but surely progressing her character ever since she debuted, and the woman from hell tint to the glamour is now fully off and running. To be fair, this was probably her best promo since joining NXT. But the steady and consistent adjustments to her character have told a nice story, step by step, the whole way. It's almost like being a bit patient and allowing a gimmick to work its way to the surface can ultimately pay off. You can't bring someone into a company with this type of gimmick. You need to develop it on screen, which is what WWE has successfully achieved here. Blake knocked this out of the park. The only real problem is that she already won the first match. I don't know how you can have her turn fully evil and then lose to even the series, because I got to imagine they're doing 3. It really should have gone in the opposite direction, with Jordan winning first, Blake transitioning, then Monroe tying it 1-1. So we'll have to see how this plays out, how it gets booked, and whether the ends justify the booking. But from a character work standpoint, home run. The second half of the Lola Vice I Am a Latina video package played. We saw her doing Taekwondo with her father, got to hear from both him and her sister. Fatal Influence later talk shit amongst themselves while still being catty with one another. Lola, she's being pushed exceptionally hard here. It's to the point I'm starting to get convinced she's going to win the title, though I would like to see how the next couple of weeks transpire with the feud actually being built up into that show. Zaruka, Tizzy, and Fatal Influence fought in a number 1 contendership elimination match main event. Luckily, we got the best possible triple threat rules with all 3 women legal at the same time. The match was better off for it, as always. There was chaos early with all the women and the guys getting taken out ringside. Soul ended it with a corkscrew plancha off the top rope ringside before surfing on the barricade with Zarya. A lot happened here. Jasmine Nix had a nice fisherman suplex bridge. Izzy Dame and Soul combined for a flying blockbuster powerbomb. Zarya had a tremendous hot tag, hitting Tatum Paxley with a full flip release suplex. Zaruka then double speared the culling, only for Zarya to get pushed in the way of Paxley as Zaruka was already jumping on the ropes. So she hit her partner with the Soul Snatcher for the first elimination covered by Nix. Jasmine soon got caught with a flying codebreaker by Izzy, with Tatum covering for what should have been a 3 count because Nix did not kick out. Paxley just moved off the cover. That was super frustrating, slow part of the match. Tatum then kicked out of an overhand right from JC Jane through the ropes. The referee's back was turned at that point. Then Influence combined for a seesaw Nix kick for a broken fall. Dame chokeslammed Nix to hell on the apron, only to eat a 619 around the ring post from Fallon Henley. However, Tatum caught Fallon on the ropes with a kick, only to miss a high-risk move. Tizzy then combined for an assisted version of Tatum's finisher, followed by Izzy's Liger Bomb finisher for the win. This was a hell of a match. Match of the night by far. 4 stars, A-. All 6 women worked their asses off. They put on a showstopper. I cannot get over how flawless the setup and execution of that Soul Snatcher came across. You went from not thinking anything funky was happening to being stunned the way Zarya was pushed in the way of Tatum to take that move. There were so many different potential fail points, and that still got executed perfectly, especially when you consider that this was a chaotic match with, many portions of it where 6 women were in there at once. But they absolutely nailed that move. I do wish the second finish came well after the first. That's always my hope for elimination matches. But it's not like they didn't get a lot of time to work together overall, because this was a decent match in terms of length. Tizzy were the fresher and more interesting winners, especially because they're easier to beat from a creative standpoint when you have Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss coming down to NXT. Tatum's going to take the fall, surely. You don't want Soul or Zarya losing if you can help it, and Soul truly did not need to be challenging for a 3rd title. This was excellent. It was the best part of NXT on Tuesday night. No surprise, the women ruled the show here. And shout out to the NXT crowd. They chanted Tuesday Adams as a nickname for Tatum. That's freaking brilliant, okay? Also, a shout to Henley, who was the star on the heel side once again. So JC loses her shit on Fallon and Jasmine after the bell, saying they completely embarrassed her. She runs the division. It's all about her. Cameras cut away from this meltdown as 2 SUVs pull up to the building. After commercial, Jane is still there ranting, saying there's no way that they would be missing Homecoming as a team. The loss was on Henley and Nix, not her. She's been carrying the group on her back. She gets no credit for how hard she works. JC said she's only ever needed herself. She's the greatest NXT Women's Champion of all time. Frankly, she was being a total unadulterated bitch right here. Like, she just was. Stephanie Vaquer surprises with an interruption, looking like 100,000 trillion.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
My lord. So Vaquer gives Jane credit for beating her, but said she carried 2 titles simultaneously in NXT, both NXT titles, and she was going to become the champion again at WrestlePalooza next Saturday. Then she asked if they knew what time it was, which led to Tiffany Stratton returning herself, looking like $1 million.
I was up all night.
Stratton flashed her WWE Women's Championship, put herself over for being a better NXT champion too. Then Rhea Ripley showed up, sent the crowd into an effing frenzy. I thought the metal was going to melt down in the WWE Performance Center. These people are going nuts. This obviously led to a 6-woman challenge for Homecoming. Let's start with influence. If you're Henley and Nyx, how the hell could you remain in a group with Jane after what she just said about you live on television? She basically just stood there for 5 minutes calling you worthless pieces of shit. Do you not have backbones? How could you possibly want to get JC's back or fight alongside her after what she just said about you? Let's not forget, this started with Henley and Jane being equals and Henley being the first champion of the group. And you're going to let JC talk to you like that? It's not like Jane has some established power or dominance over them. I was sure they were splitting up here, which makes me believe that this should have been saved for them losing at Homecoming. They lose the match, JC blames them, and then she loses influence by her side and drops the title when she's left alone at No Mercy. Now, maybe the breakup still happens sooner than later, but man, I do not understand logically how they can fight on the same side in this match next week, but maybe it factors into the match. Maybe they leave her alone, JC alone in the ring, and JC takes finishers from all the other 3 women, and that's how the match ends, and JC's like, okay, I was a bitch, and like, I took my medicine, and okay, we're good. So I don't know how they're going to book it, but it's got to be something like that. Otherwise, I don't know how Henley and like Nyx could ever show their face in the Performance Center again, the way they got spoken to by Jane. Obviously, the 1-2-3 punch of Vaquer, Stratton, and Ripley coming out at the end was phenomenal. What was funny that they were all arguing over who was the best NXT Women's Champion when it was none of them. Asuka is the greatest of all time, not by miles, but literal light years. Undefeated champion, only dropped her title due to injury after 522 days. If we're being honest, Roxanne Perez was a greater champion than every single woman on the screen here. But okay, WWE used who they could use, right? Asuka would not make any sense in this spot as a heel. Roxy is working Worlds Collide on Friday, so no need for her to do both shows. I'm just saying, if that's the angle, these 3 actually pale in comparison to Asuka, Roxy, even I would say Io Sky when she was there as Io Shirai. The moment was awesome, though. It's going to be great to see all 3 of them working together. And now I have major FOMO not going to Homecoming when I absolutely would have most other times. This was like that meme of like, what is it? Coughing baby versus a, nuclear bomb. Like, that's what this matchup is. Like, Fatal Influence is the coughing baby. And then you have Ripley, Vaquer, and Stratton as the bomb that's going to get dropped on them. I'm not one for short matches, but really, they should probably run through Fatal Influence with ease here. I suppose this proves Vaquer is healthy and available. Maybe she was dealing with an injury and this is going to be her warm-up match. But don't forget, this is going to happen on Tuesday after she hopefully appears on Raw. And she made it to this show after not appearing in Milwaukee on Monday night. Now, she lives in Orlando, so it's not tough for her to get to the Performance Center. Maybe there was a travel issue. But it is a bit risky to put her in this situation with WrestlePalooza 4 days later. And now that I think about it, how is Ripley not on the WrestlePalooza card? That's a little odd. Maybe that tag team match will show up on that program. Ethan Page backstage was caught by NXT Anonymous, telling Miles Bourne he needed to stand on business and not get pushed around, follow the other champions in NXT the way they operate, or people like Lexis King would keep getting the best of him. King joked around about that, talking shit to Charlie Dempsey when Bourne ran into the locker room, shut off the lights, and presumably hit him with a steel chair. It was okay. They do need to have a rubber match, but it really wasn't that intriguing. So then we moved to Page and Tavian Heights in a non-title flag match. The guys took a big-time stumble out of the ring that luckily did not result in serious injury for Ethan. He took a nasty bump off the apron onto the back of his neck. Gnarly stuff. Page pulled Heights off the ropes for a confidence breaker early. It was mostly basic from there outside of attempts to grab the flag. Page knocked Heights down with his throat hit the top turnbuckle. Then Ethan threw Tavian into the steel steps, but Tavian came back with an avalanche overhead belly-to-belly suplex, which allowed him to grab the American flag and wave it to end the match. Then he draped the Canadian flag over Page's body. So I guess that earned him a number 1 contendership? At least you got to assume as much, right? And then Tyler Breeze randomly comes out as Heights is celebrating, posing with his selfie stick next to Page's body. So I guess he's just going to get a title match at NXT Homecoming just because?
No, don't like that.
Don't like that at all, especially considering Tavian just got a win over Ethan. And they're still doing this like nationalistic storyline, but Breeze is literally Canadian. Why is he challenging another Canadian? I can't answer because there's no storyline reason. While the bills of the mixed tag team match hit for me, the fact that they're still stuck in this USA-Canada deal is an eye roll. I'm glad Heights is getting a program with Paige. It's huge for him, but this is leaving a lot to be desired in terms of my interest. As far as Breeze goes, seems like a good dude. I'm indifferent, and clearly I dislike him just getting a title match for no reason whatsoever. Didn't even get to cut a promo, say why he was there, nothing. And it kind of sucked for him also that the PC crowd just did not respond to him showing up. And I mean, look, he's not part of WWE on television. He does their video game stuff with Xavier Woods, etc. And I think he does some of their like Topps trading card and some of their other promotional things. He's still with the company, but he's not an on-screen character. And the newer NXT fans, may not know him. I get that. But that reaction he got, left a lot to be desired. Tag Team Championship, Dark State defending against Hank and Tank. The Faces had a backstage comedy segment with Zaruka before the match. Soul continues to shine as a character, but she is not being given any chances to speak. The challengers got a broken fall almost immediately after the bell, hitting Honk Honk on their unnamed finisher. Hank went wild on a hot tag, hit a supremely cool cradled, rotating flatliner that I'd love to see someone else utilize. Tank followed with a swanton bomb for a false finish. Dark State distracted in the end, with Cutler James grabbing Hank saying, "Joe Hendry won't save you tonight." So Hendry appeared, literally broke through the bottom of the crow's nest like he was the Kool-Aid man when he ran into the ring. That distracted the referee, who missed an O'Connor roll reversal. That allowed the champions to retain the titles. This was just not for me. Hank and Tank, they're not my cup of tea, and running the Hendry gimmick 4 weeks in a row is just an eye roll at this point. I know that's his deal, but he went through like 6 months in NXT showing up without that, only for it to now be 1 week after the next. What I would like to see is a heel call his name and then jump him when he appears. Put a twist on it. The match itself was high energy because the crowd loves sloppy, fun face teams, but it just truly failed to capture my attention. My hope is that Dark State moves on. NXT can actually develop other teams to contend for these titles, but it seems clear we're getting a 6 or 8 man match first. On the back end of that, I really hope, what other tag teams are in this company right now, in this brand? Name them, think about it, and try to name them. You can't, and that is a massive problem. Laney Reed beat Fabi Apache in the next WWE Speed match. Laney got a tape promo that was a massive shrug. Natalya, looking like Natty, came out to distract Fabi, given they are fighting at Worlds Collide. I was wondering how this would go, given Fabi has that match scheduled, but man, it was ridiculous to have a distraction in a 3-minute match. And really, it would have been far more interesting for Fabi to win here and then lose to Candice LeRae. Last week, the fresh presentation, it made WWE Speed more interesting. This week, that was no longer impressive. It reverted back to being boring and not deserving its placement on television at all. On top of that, how is it that Natty exists in every other promotion worldwide and NXT, but not on the main roster? Make this make sense to me. WWE has 4 brands right now: Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and AAA. NXT and AAA, she's Natty. Raw and SmackDown, she's Natalya. I don't get it. So that wraps up NXT from this week. Next week, NXT will emanate from Full Sail University for NXT Homecoming. The match is scheduled for that show as of now. Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes against DIY. Got to imagine DIY is going to win that. Trick probably leaving Mello on the ring apron and then Mello taking the fall, which is super unfortunate, but it's what makes the most sense. Tiffany Stratton, Rhea Ripley, and Stephanie Vaquer against Fatal Influence. You got to imagine it's going to be Nyx taking the fall, but it really should be Jane. As I mentioned, Henley and Nyx kind of leaving her by the wayside in terms of who actually gets the win. I would hope it's Vaquer because she's the number 1 contender for the Women's World Championship. Ethan Page, Tyler Breeze for the NXT North American Championship. Again, no storyline here. Page has to be retaining the title. I'd be shocked otherwise. And we're also going to have the Grayson Waller effect with Oba Femi and Ricky Saints. Now, all of that said, okay, there's also a tease of numerous WWE superstars returning to NXT for this show. There was a video package that didn't promise anyone individually, but shown were Triple H, William Regal, Finn Balor, Bianca Belair, the Street Profits. So they're going to be on the show, plus everyone involved in these matches. The one thing that's kind of odd about this card is, in terms of those who are wrestling, I think only 4 of them actually competed at Full Sail. And if you're going to be doing like legends coming back, you want the people who were on the black and gold brand who wrestled there. I would have loved to have seen Andrade, Aleister Black, like people who you remember from being NXT black and gold. Obviously, like I said, Finn Balor, Street Profits, who else did I mention? Bianca Belair. If they all show up, they definitely are part of it. But like, if it's going to be a homecoming, then the people who lived in that home, right, should be showing up. So I am excited for NXT Homecoming next week. We're not going to do anything special for it here on the show. We will discuss it next Thursday in this space, but we will have the instant reaction on buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Moving over to AEW, we got the best collision in months. Crazy what happens when you make an effort to continue your storytelling on the show and you feature notable talent and matches. It's actually a double-sided coin for me personally. I want Collision to be good because I want AEW to be good. And I want my time spent watching the show to be valuable. On the other hand, I'm so busy, especially now during football season, that being able to fast forward most of Collision each week, it really made covering AEW easier. So I'm glad the show was good, but for the Silver King, it actually took a lot more time to watch it. Also, Bryan Danielson replaced Tony Schiavone on commentary for Dynamite on a permanent basis, which, as you know, is absolute music to my ears.
Thank you!
And yes, I was delaying because I wanted to find the sound drop there. And it's not only because Schiavone is terrible, but Danielson's actually good. And while viewers don't tune in for commentary, it certainly doesn't hurt to have one of your most popular names and faces on TV every single week. I wonder if this is a real situation or if it's like a multi-month lead into an in-ring return for a storyline where someone attacks him on commentary. I guess we'll find out. Anyway, Schiavone continued to do the no-question interview stuff. Less ideal, but still much better overall. Speaking of much better overall, relevant matches in AEW. Certainly helping matters to that end is there were only 8 across 4 hours of television, which is like the opposite of where the best wrestler. And I think their whole gimmick is putting matches on. There have been weeks where we've covered like 14 matches in this space, but there were only 8 here. 6 of the 8 were relevant, 75%. And I got to tell you, there's another one that I could make the case for being relevant, 7 out of 8. But I just really didn't think it was fair, if we're being completely honest, the way we grade the relevancy of these matches week to week. But 75% for weekly TV, not a go-home to a pay-per-view. I want to say it's the best since we started calculating this. So a huge, huge improvement. Most of the matches felt like they mattered. And the 2 that didn't, they were both women's matches. One of them definitely wasn't relevant. The other, like I said, you could make the case, and it's still, I don't want to say it accomplished stuff because it's such a cop-out of what they do, but it was at least valuable. And we'll get to that momentarily. On Collision, Jon Moxley beat Daniel Garcia in a rematch to open the show. Outside of a massive, nasty loogie that was stuck on Garcia's cheek for a big part of the match, this was great bell to bell, particularly from a storytelling perspective. They did the vertical suplex spot over the top rope outside, leading to a brief brawl before Mox countered a pinning combination for the 1-2-3. The idea was that they were engaged in a fight more than a technical wrestling match. Garcia muttered to himself after the bell, got a golf clap from Marina Shafir, and pushed Daddy Magic away. Then he grabbed the mic, saying he's got nothing to show for wrestling well and losing, and while it's been a good 5 years, it hasn't been good enough. I did not enjoy the promo, as it came across like a mixed message, and it didn't land with any impact. Garcia joining Death Riders, gaining an edge, that would be interesting, except, we've seen Wheeler Yuta over there basically doing the same thing for 2 years now. Garcia turning heel could absolutely play, if he did it on his own especially, but he'd need to be entirely refreshed. And if he did turn heel, then AEW would need to push him to success. So my interest remains moderate out of this, but I need to be shown that it's going to be entertaining. 3.75 stars, B+. Mox later cut a parking lot promo on Darby Allin saying he and other babyfaces keep saying they want to take what he has, but he doesn't even know what they're talking about because he's no longer champion. They already lost the titles. Then he kind of denigrated the titles by just calling them belts and referring to them as things that didn't matter that much, saying, hey, they can just win them all back at any given time. Mox said it broke his heart to take Darby out last year because he'd love for Allin to actually be standing by his side, but he's too simple-minded to understand and too hard-headed to go away. Then he seemingly agreed to the all-out match, promising to put him in the ground, which I thought meant they were going to do a buried alive match. Turns out it's just going to be another Darby Allin coffin match. Where this failed is that Mox posed a question, declined 10 answers he self-propositioned, and then never actually answered his own question. It went on twice as long as necessary, never really made a point other than that he wished he and Darby could work together rather than separate. Considering Darby almost never speaks, and when he does, it's short, I'm left wanting a lot more of like a person-to-person story between them. But the feud is hot and successful, and Mox had been cutting one great promo after another for the last few weeks, so for him to have one clunker isn't the end of the world. On Collision, Don Callis' family came out for a promo with Josh Alexander cutting a promo at Hangman Page saying he wanted a grudge match. Fletcher then cut a promo on Mark Briscoe saying he would be TNT champion for a long time, and if Hangman is still alive after fighting Alexander, he would beat him to become a double champion at All Out. Alexander was pretty weak. Fletcher was much better by comparison. Both were relatively toothless because we know neither of them has a chance to beat Page. Callis family, they have go-away heat for me, so leveling them up to compete for the main AEW title in terms of my product enjoyment, it's pretty rough. On Dynamite, Hangman Page beat Alexander in a non-title match to open the show. Alexander did a great avalanche rolling senton. Page came back with a ringside moonsault before the family jobbers got involved, got the referee distracted. Both offensive moves from Hangman that he did on them completely missed. Then he hit buckshot lariat for the win. Expected match quality, finish style, missing that offense. And I thought those guys selling was pretty damn rough. This is like borderline BB+. Hangman after the bell said the most important word in AEW is wrestling, which is why he's there to do it because he's the champion. Fletcher went face-to-face with Page in the ring. Hangman said he's built like a brick shithouse. No, he's not. While putting over his future, saying he believes Fletcher is where Hangman was 6 years ago. Fletcher said he's already in his prime at age 26. He's ready to lead AEW as world champion. Page said he would give Fletcher the opportunity to prove he can be the top guy as long as he's willing to do it himself and truly earn it, meaning none of the family ringside. They also made a whole bit about like him wearing shoes without socks, which was kind of fun. Fletcher agreed, and then he gave his word, saying it would be man on man.
That's the most action I've had all year.
At All Out. Callis later supported the decision in a segment that really just did not need to be on the show. There's enough of Don Callis. You don't have to force 30-second backstage segments in. Solid promo for a thrown-together title match that Fletcher has no chance to win. AEW does need to get away from its tendency to have like 90% of its main event stories be about who should lead the company. AEW itself does not need to be the centerpiece of every men's title feud. And really, it should not be. I get it. At the end of the day,
We're wrestlers in a wrestling ring. Let's just freaking wrestle.
but how about giving us something more to chew on? I did like how they drew the parallel between Page and Fletcher here. There was at least a little bit of twist on it, but the base storyline was exactly the same. On Dynamite, the Young Bucks were in catering, excited to compete in a money match that could improve their lives. Dark Order pulled a seats taken deal with them before the Bucks found Brandon Cutler, whose beard has become ridiculous. Cutler told them to shut up and walked away. Then Mox sat down, and everyone else ran away before he gassed up the Bucks. He basically offered them the entirety of the $500,000 prize if they win, seemingly as a means of motivation. So then we had Death Riders and Young Bucks beat Brodito and the Ops in the $500,000 match. By far the most impressive part was Claudio Castagnoli getting Brody King around for like 2 swing rotations. Big ass dude, he basically deadlifted him off the ground. The Bucks cheated to pin Bandito by assisting one another with the ropes. Then they grabbed this duffel bag of money, which could never have contained $500,000 given its tiny size, nor would it have made a shred of sense to put $500,000 in a zippered duffel bag that could easily be stolen by anyone in the crowd at any time. The money being ringside, it didn't even play logistically, because if you remember, one of the last 2 money matches, the sum never got paid out to Chris Statlander because the money supposedly came out of the Bucks' salaries. Mox had to go get it for her. Remember that? Yet here it is ringside, just sitting there for the match. And now that I'm thinking about it, wouldn't they have been competing to ensure they didn't lose money because the money got taken out of their salaries? I'll digress and move on, but these are all logic gaps involving this ridiculous type of stipulation, not to mention the kayfabe issues of needing to pay signed talent more money to compete in a match that you can just book for free. So anyway, Brody gets upset after the bell. He knocks the money out of their hands. Everyone brawls. Darby saves. Then Garcia pops out of the crowd wearing a black hoodie, drills him in the back from behind. Fans chanted, "You sold out, F you, Danny." They just stood there for 30 seconds, literally. Then Shafir comes in with a chair, and Garcia was set to lift up and stomp his head onto the chair, except he lifted him up and completely missed the chair. Then after pausing for 30 more seconds, they did the move again into the chair. Garcia continued pounding on Allen's dead body. No one saves, no officials, no security, no cops, no baby faces, no hangman, nobody. You can tell me you like this, and I won't argue with you because everyone has their own opinions. But this was a massive disappointment for me. Turning Garcia in 4 days, not letting that breathe from Collision, that was a mistake on its own. His turn coming at the end of a 10-man match on Dynamite, not saving it for All Out, where it could actually make an impact, helping Mox beat Darby in a coffin match. I can't make sense of that at all. If you booked it early because Darby's going to win that match, that means you're having him come back now from a concussive shot into a chair and a major beatdown to take out Mox, who basically won every feud he had for a year plus. Did Darby really need to face additional adversity before fighting a faction on his own? And then the whole standing around thing, it just lessened the impact of everything. The match was typical stuff from these guys. The finish was an eye roll, but clearly meant, I thought, to develop a tag team title match at All Out, at least I assume. So I'm expecting that get added. I think there's 8 official matches for the card. That would be 9. It looks like there's going to be 10, maybe even 11. I guess that's because of WWE WrestlePalooza. They want to run into the start of that show, but we're getting into crazy territory for All Out right now. I'm also convinced that AEW has just completely lost the plot when it comes to matches like this. Is it as simple as Tony Khan being so busy with NFL season that he doesn't have the time to put together better creative? Perhaps. But the fact that there's now all-star tags, money matches, and or money match all-star tags every single week, it's ridiculous. Why are the ops still fighting these guys? Brodita was only involved here because they randomly got put against Death Riders last week in a title match without them earning or deserving it in the first place. We've already told you why the money aspect is stupid in kayfabe. Most of the time, the money doesn't even factor into what happens next. I believe it only did once. If they tie the money into the Bucks, like return to relevance, finding their confidence again, that could play on the back end here. And it would be a nice touch, not dissimilar from the bum-ass Corbin storyline in WWE. I would hope that would mark the end of the money matches, but I just fear they're not going away at all. On Collision, Konosuke Takeshita beat Mark Briscoe in 18 minutes. This was the de facto TNT #1 contendership for Briscoe. MJF ultimately came in on the back end of a hot match, pushed Briscoe off the top rope, allowing Takeshita to beat him easily in the finish. Commentary was actually really strong here. They sold the surprise because MJF got married one night earlier. They pointed out this was revenge for MJF based on Briscoe showing up during his title match. Takeshita was pissed at the bell, shoving MJF until they got separated. MJF and Briscoe brawled, with MJF calling him a white trash piece of shit, challenging him to any match, any place, any stipulation. Briscoe obviously chose All Out, but he said he'd choose the stipulation at another time. This was the strongest close to Collision maybe in all of 2025. The MJF Briscoe match makes plenty of sense for All Out. I do hope there's some type of unique stipulation, considering Briscoe is a character. He could come up with something fun. This feud has been built well with hate, and you can feel that hate through the screen. The match was super strong, preceding the distraction. 4 stars A- due to the interference finish, but it was on its way to being an A match. On Dynamite, MJF, after Collision, cut a parking lot promo saying he told his new wife they can't start their honeymoon until he kills Briscoe, and that he was married to the game and married to hate way before he was married to her. He said he was ready to kick the shit out of him no matter what stupid stipulation he chooses. Now, normally, I would criticize MJF for not being able to appear on 2 shows in a row, but again, the dude showed up on a live Collision the day after his wedding. He gets a pass through the end of the month for me at least. But forget that part. This was an excellent promo. Probably my favorite individual effort from Dynamite. MJF's work with Briscoe has been tops of late. And it's really a shame that he doesn't get to cut promos like this in the ring, because every single time he's in the ring, he does his shtick. He wants to get cheered as a cool heel in front of the audience. This version of MJF is the best MJF, and hopefully he can stick to it going forward. It's strange, by the way, how this entire Hurt Syndicate thing just completely dissipated. It was announced on Dynamite that Kazuchika Okada will defend his unified championship in a triple threat at All Out at the end of a 6-man qualifying tournament in which he's, for some reason, competing in the first round. Get this. Okada against Michael Oku, not signed to AEW, in a first-round match. Then Takeshita against Anthony Bowens and the Beast Mortos against Mascara Dorada. So let's break this down. Why is Okada qualifying to defend his own title? Why is he fighting Oku? Why is Takeshita in a qualifier to fight his own stablemate? I understand why in kayfabe they hate each other. But does Callis not have any control over this? Why is Bowens getting a qualifier when he's been nothing but a consistent loser? Speaking of losers, Mortos. Dorada, I believe, is a couple singles wins, so I guess buy him. But neither of those guys have even been on TV recently. And lastly, why does Okada never get a feud with a storyline of any kind outside of Kenny Omega? Even the Swerve Strickland feud was just, I want to fight you. Okada's booking in AEW remains perplexing. He's never gone after the world title despite being one of the greatest in the world. He doesn't cut promos without saying bitch. He only gets real storylines like 25% of the time when he does defend the title. So disappointing. I had really, really high hopes for him coming over from Japan to AEW. The wrestling has obviously been great. I'm not sure I needed to point that out, but everything else, it's been pretty damn disappointing. On Collision, Toni Storm, Mina Shirakawa, Chris Statlander, and Harley Cameron beat Megan Bayne and Triangle of Madness in another 8-person match thrown together. It was here I learned Mina Shirakawa is somehow an interim ROH TV champion. Yuta approached Stat before the bell. She ultimately won the match using his seatbelt pinning combination. The heels attacked immediately after, with Storm and Shirakawa getting run through. Jamie Hayter saved a further attack on Storm, going at Thekla before she got saved. Hayter offered a hand to Storm, who didn't trust her. Storm then said, "Let's get Buddy Ballistic," and randomly offered a 4-way title match to Stat, Hayter, and Thekla. Why does she want to fight babyfaces for no reason? What have any of them done to deserve a title match? You know the answers. Nothing. The All-Star matches, like I kind of said earlier, they remain lazy booking, even with parts of feuds getting pushed together. At least I have a level of understanding that they fill TV time, but just throwing a 4-way match on a pay-per-view without any real rhyme or reason is simply ridiculous. It's like AEW is delaying the completion of a women's tag team division and giving up on booking the singles title picture in a meaningful way as a consequence. It's really tough to explain. So my thought coming out of this is that we're going to see Garcia and Stat join the Death Riders sooner than later. Obviously, we already saw it with Garcia. We talked about it earlier in the show. On Dynamite, Storm beat Sky Blue in a Philly street fight. Why this match? Why this stipulation? No reason whatsoever. Tony did a full Sandman cosplay. Sky, I think for the first time, had no semblance of blue in her hair, her gear, etc. When she first walked out,
It look good, but she's got me saying, "Hey now!"
Blue stapled Tony twice in her ass and then once in each of her tits and crotch. And I only use that word because she does, just to be crystal clear. Storm then answered in kind with some staples. What is AEW's obsession with staple guns? Tony then unveiled a table filled with mousetraps. She got powerbombed into it. The table didn't break, and those mousetraps don't do any damage to a flat surface like a back. Storm then took a powerbomb into a trash can, but hit her hip attack with a metal sign and landed Storm Zero onto a steel chair for the win. The other heels attacked. The other faces saved after the bell, as per usual in AEW. Hayter beat the shit out of Thekla before accidentally slugging Stat and eating a finisher from Julia Hart. Storm then just stood around watching as Thekla did her spider shit and speared her. Setting aside the absurdity of the booking, bell to bell, this was my favorite match of the night. They put a lot of effort into some of the hardcore spots, even if only one of them was actually inventive. The crowd was hot for them start to finish. Sky acquitted herself well once again. Tony got the win as necessary, going, into a title match. And also this didn't go that long either. So it made sense that she didn't have to fight that hard to beat her. 3.75 stars, B+. The booking of Thekla has also left a lot to be desired in that I don't believe she's spoken a single word since joining the company, even if she's impressed in the ring. The creative leading into this match also left a lot to be desired. On Dynamite, Willow Nightingale backstage was in the midst of a serious promo on Shafir, saying she wants to fight her so bad. Harley Cameron interrupted wearing cat makeup with a guitar in her hand, doing a comedy song. Her goal was to get Nightingale to team up with her and Stat. Willow declined, saying she can't deal with Chris, and given she's clearly friendly with the Death Riders, that doesn't make really any sense for her. Harley should also watch her back. Well, yeah, that makes sense. I'm glad this is coming back around. It's serving as part of the storytelling. It was annoying that after a year, Willow is finally getting around to calling out Marina one-on-one in her first serious promo on the subject, and that promo gets cut off by comedy. It's legitimately wild that it's taken them so long to fight, and even after this, the match still wasn't officially set. The move would be turning Stat heel, joining Death Riders, helping Shafir beat Willow, then moving back into a one-on-one feud, culminating with a major match on a pay-per-view with Willow winning. Will that happen? I truly hope so. I'm not confident, but I hope so. On Dynamite, Mercedes Moné and Emi Sakura beat Alex Windsor and Rhea in a non-title match. Now, this sounds random, but I give AEW credit for actually building it on Collision. Apparently, Sakura was Rio's mentor, and now she's a heel, so Mercedes is using her against her protege. That plays for me, and I appreciate the effort. It doesn't change Rio getting a TBS title match for no reason out of nowhere being the height of absurdity, as we explained last week. The faces were able to lock in stereo single leg crab submissions. Moné got caught in the ropes. That allowed Rio to get the victory ahead of her unearned title match. Nothing before or after this. The match was really rough. The fact that they had 2 women's matches on Dynamite was definitely a positive, but there was pretty much no storytelling in or around this. And you just, again, you get real like WWE Divas era energy from some of what they're doing here. Just throw all the women into the match. Say, hey, we're jamming a bunch of stories together. All these things are happening, but you never actually spend time telling the stories, and you forget why people are even feuding for the feuds that like did begin with a touchstone. It's just, the heels are heels and faces are faces, and they don't like each other, and they're just going to keep fighting. I mean, how many, 10-woman, 8-woman, 6-woman tag team matches have we gotten involving mostly the same people over the last, 2-3 months? It's the same thing over and over again. It's like missionary position every single night.
It's the same thing over and over and over. It's like missionary position every single night. In the tribal chief, the head of the table, we're not interested in that. No.
So you have that part of it. Then you have like the staple shit. And it's like, when you bring out staples, that's supposed to be like, I hate you so freaking much that this is the length I'm going to. It's Storm and Sky Blue. They're not in the middle of a story. This wasn't a title match. Sky's just one of like 40 people that has attacked Storm because everyone's been jammed together over the last 6 weeks or whatever, 3 months, however long it's been. So again, the storyline with Storm and Mercedes Moné going into All In, great. They did a great job. They crushed it. Coming out of that, man, like, what are they doing with this division? It's crazy. On Dynamite, Ricochet beat Shelton Benjamin in a match that, I don't want to say it focused around them both being bald, but the fans made that the focus. Preceding this, Ricochet dared Shelton to keep all the seconds backstage. He agreed. Ricochet hit a Spanish fly off the ropes. Shelton stole the scissors and broke them. Gates of Agony came down anyway with a headbutt. That was enough for Ricochet to roll up Shelton for the win. Syndicate ran out for a 6-way brawl with Ricochet taking a 10 out of 10 thrust kick to the jaw from Benjamin. Picture perfect shot. This wound up being a pull apart. I see people criticize WWE for like distraction finishes, interference finishes, pull apart brawls. That shit happens in AEW too. And a lot of it happened in this episode, particularly in this match. I get the heel move of wanting a gentleman's match and then not actually abiding by it. The finish was crazy, weak, and eye-rolling. And because I'm drawing the WWE comparisons, if this was on our Tuesday show, it would get a bad or an ugly because it was 2 really good wrestlers who could have done something cool, and then they just didn't. On Collision, FTR beat Adam Priest, the jobber from last week, and Tommy Billington, who AEW made a huge deal about signing only to never feature in 14 minutes. Let me repeat that. 14 minutes to beat a couple jobbers. This did get relevancy credit because Priest was involved in that pull-apart brawl from Dynamite last week, though he had a different partner here for no real reason. Even so, it was extremely weak as a TV match. Stokely cut a promo after, saying that it was Edge and Christian's fault. On Dynamite, Renee Paquette voiced a promo package that took pointers from the way WWE does like the Royal Rumble statistics every year for this feud. It did help increase the profile of the match because nothing is actually on the line when I'll remind you the titles could have been up for grabs. The heels cut a promo immediately after where they were focused on arguing with fans, getting in their faces. They picked out one dude who was probably a plant, then knocked over and beat up the camera people for, I guess, bumping into them. So they're going to be arrested for assault and suspended indefinitely, right? This sucked. Why is FTR fighting jobbers and employees? Why has this not moved forward as a storyline in 3 weeks? 4 of the 5 dudes involved can talk. I get that the match doesn't really need to be sold, but Edge and Christian, Copeland and Christian, whatever you want to call them, they are supposed to be so vociferously angry at these guys. They want blood. Why are we not getting one of those classic taped promos from them? laying out their reasons, why they're filled with hate, how they've come together over these two feuds they need to tackle. Like, why is just FTR coming out and getting booed and not really saying much of anything? On Collision, Anthony Bowens backstage put himself over for representing AEW at other entertainment events. Jerry Lynn interrupted, buttering Bowens up with praise before saying he needs to take a look in the mirror and find what's missing. So I said to myself, okay, if end of the night Bowens beats the shit out of Lynn, or if he does it on Dynamite, I'm going to be okay with this. That'll make a lot of sense. So not only did Bowens not look in the mirror, the guy's been granted an opportunity for the unified title. How? How did he earn that? He didn't. That's the problem. On Dynamite, Hook got a taped promo sitting in front of a fire on some roof saying he respects Samoa Joe and the fact that the Ops will have his back. He accepted Joe's explanation from last week. He repeated everything twice. For some reason, they didn't edit this down or have him cut it again. And he said now he's standing on his own, or maybe not. This dude has made zero progress in 5 years. Promo, presentation, wrestling, it's all the same. Are they really teasing giving this guy a group? Like, how is he going to lead a faction or a stable or just a trio? I mean, maybe there's people where it makes sense. I don't get this. Maybe he joins Death Riders and he's not a leader. Yeah, this is a big head scratcher for me. I do like, though, that they put the tie together in terms of the Ops. They tied that up, didn't leave it hanging. That was positive. I said that last week. On Collision, Big Bill with Brian Keith backstage cut a cheap heat promo on Philadelphia before putting himself over as someone on the come up who could whip anyone's ass in town, given he's a badass from New York City. Then he called out Eddie Kingston as another tough guy from New York who likes to run his mouth, but hasn't been around in a while. Tony Schiavone immediately said, "Oh my gosh, that was out of left field. I didn't expect that." Right. Exactly. Completely out of left field. The story, if we can even call it that, was literally, I hate Philly. I'm a badass from New York. So is Eddie. So I want to fight him. Really? That's how you're bringing back a super popular babyface. Shit, I criticize WWE for announcing and teasing returns too blatantly. AEW ruined a legitimate potential surprise this week. Like, woof. All these guys are missing. Swerve Strickland, Will Ospreay. You have a chance to create a moment when someone comes back. Talk about basic ass independent wrestling booking. This is something you do if you feel like you need to sell tickets. And you probably do it in a much better way. You have them return to TV. Or you tease that someone from New York is going to answer an open challenge from Big Bill at All Out. And it happens to be Eddie Kingston, because that's the rumor that's going around. You don't do it this way. And by the way, right before we taped the show, Kingston accepted the challenge on social media. He's like, yeah, the money's right, so I'll come back. No, dude, you're healthy. You've been out a year and a half or however long because you were injured. You weren't waiting for the money to be right. Like, what are they doing here, man? Oh my God. On Collision, Roderick Strong was still angry at Kyle O'Reilly, who continued acting like a dork, trying to prop up the conglomeration. Kyle said Tomohiro Ishii was going to back to Japan for a bit, and Roddy said that was good. How is this that's something on TV weekly? The group kind of worked when Briscoe and Orange Cassidy were regular players along with Willow Nightingale, but now it's like the B-team conglomeration, which is worse than the B-team bloodline with MFT. It doesn't even really make sense anymore. Like, they're the conglomeration, they're conglomerating, but they're not going after anybody. Like, they originally came together to briefly fight and fall to the Death Riders. Why are they still together? On Collision, Bang Bang Gang had a babyface promo where they got rid of the cardboard cutouts, saying they had to figure out a way to move forward with Jay White and Colton Gunn out. It was okay. And lastly, on Collision, there was an Outrunners vignette where they got spooked by the boys, like Dalton Castle's minions, in the jungle. So they decided to all team up. Could not be less interested. It screams Ring of Honor undercard. Why did this air on AEW television? Is this something? Are they going to go after the Ops for the trios titles? These the dudes that are going to go after that? The Outrunners falling off has been sad. They were crazy over. AEW had a chance to strike while the iron was hot, just like they did with the Acclaimed, who weren't supposed to win the titles, but ultimately they booked the match again, gave them the titles because they were that over. That's the way things were going for the Outrunners. And now they're just doing this shit. They're working with Dalton Castle and the boys. Come on. In terms of AEW All Out and the card as it has been built to this point, there's Hangman Page against Kyle Fletcher for the AEW World Championship, champion versus champion, although not title versus title again. kind of just thrown together. The Unified Championship match, definitely just thrown together. The Women's World Championship match, Toni Storm, Jamie Hayter, Chris Statlander, and Thekla, definitely just thrown together. There is hate between Storm and Hayter long term, and then Thekla and Storm a little bit more recently. But again, this is just kind of something they're doing. MJF and Mark Briscoe, legit feud. Jon Moxley and Darby Allin, legit feud. Mercedes Moné and Rhea for the TBS Championship, the most thrown together out of anything on this card. Absolutely ridiculous. Hurt Syndicate against Ricochet and GOA. That's definitely been built in the storyline. Adam Copeland and Christian Cage against FTR. Same thing. So as of right now, 4 of the 8 matches I would consider relevant and legitimate. Now, the other ones are being built, obviously, but they were booked basically just out of nowhere. So that's 8. And I told you, I think the tag team championships might get added. Brodito against the Young Bucks. That seemed to be a tease coming out of this show. If Eddie Kingston is indeed returning, then you've got to believe he's fighting Big Bill on this card. That's 10 main card matches just right there. So that's, I believe, more than they booked for the last show. And I also would just be guessing that because AEW moved up the start time for, 2025 All In, they're most likely, ideally, trying to dig into WWE's window for WrestlePalooza, angry that they're doing a show the same day, similar to what they did, I believe it was with All In, or was it Forbidden Door that ran long? I forget which one, but regardless, All Out's going to begin at 3. WrestlePalooza is going to begin at 7, so they're going to try to go over 4 hours on the main card. And when you have 10 matches, which it looks like they will have, then yeah, you can successfully do that. No ratings talk this week. NXT was pretty standard. The numbers for AEW didn't come out. I wouldn't talk about it normally week to week anyway, but we did spend time last week, and I am curious, did the numbers rebound for Dynamite? Did they not? But as we finish this show, I don't have that information for you. So instead, I will remind that we'll be back next Tuesday with your WWE WrestlePalooza Ultimate Preview. We will also do analysis of the WWE AAA Worlds Collide 2 card, which is happening Friday immediately after SmackDown. And then on Thursday, we'll have your AEW All Out Ultimate Preview, along with your regular NXT Homecoming Breakdown, because that, of course, will be a special show. So 2 loaded midweek episodes. In terms of the instant analysis next weekend, I just don't yet know the way that's going to go. The plan as of right now is to have WWE WrestlePalooza instant analysis at some point late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. If the Silver King stays home, if I don't go to the Florida-Miami football game, which is going to be at night, and really, I'm not trying to be like a fair weather dude or anything like that, but it's going to depend on probably what happens in the Florida LSU game this weekend. If that becomes a valuable game, I'll try to go. If it's not, even if it's close, I'm traveling the next morning. It's going to be really difficult to go to a night game the morning before traveling, especially driving as far as I would need to go from the stadium back to my house. I have a feeling if that is what happens, I'll be able to do an AEW All Out instant analysis like quickly on Saturday, like a brief one. I don't know how long it would be, 30 to 45 minutes. And then we'd be able to do the WrestlePalooza end of night and get both of them out for you. Maybe hold one of them, publish it Sunday morning. But we'll do our best to have both instant analysis episodes out for you at some point next weekend. So that wraps up today's show. Let me hit you with a few reminders. First, of course, that the Getting Over Wrestling podcast
is all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast. You can follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky for episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, and all of that good stuff. And you can subscribe to us on YouTube for full-length audio episodes and full-length video interviews. Please, across the board, at Getting Overcast. Lastly, I gotta remind you,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. As mentioned, we'll be back Tuesday talking all things WWE. This is the Silver King signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.